Not tonight, Michael. I have a headache. My name is Michael and I'm 34 years old. I work as a shift supervisor at Halyard Design, a manufacturing company in Chicago. My wife Jessica had been repeating those same words for 3 straight months. 3 months of pulling away, of sudden migraines, of making excuses to sleep in the guest room. I was standing in the doorway of our bedroom, watching her brush her hair in front of the vanity. She avoided my eyes in the mirror. The woman I married 5 years ago used to pull me close the moment I got home from work. Now she flinched when I touched her shoulder. You're listening to a beautiful story of love and revenge. Please subscribe to the channel and comment where you're from. It really helps our work. Jessica, we need to talk about this. About what? She put the brush down too quickly. Her hand was trembling slightly, and I noticed how her nails were bitten down, a habit she'd kicked years ago. About us. About whatever is happening here. She turned to face me, and for a second I saw something in her eyes. Fear maybe, or guilt. But then she smiled, that rehearsed smile she'd been using lately. A smile that didn't reach her eyes, that didn't form the little crinkles I loved so much. Nothing is happening, Michael. I'm just tired from work. Jessica worked as a receptionist at Glenfield Electric downtown. Same job she'd had for 2 years. Same hours, same routine. She always said she liked the predictability, the security of knowing exactly what each day would bring. Yet suddenly she was exhausted every night. The dark circles under her eyes seemed deeper, but her face had a strange glow, almost as if she were keeping an exciting secret. You've been tired for 3 months. I made an appointment with Dr. Evans next week. Maybe I need vitamins or something. The way she said it sounded scripted, each word carefully chosen. I nodded, but a coldness settled in my chest. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, the walls closer. I could hear the ticking of the clock in the living room, each second marking the growing distance between us. That night, I lay awake, listening to her breathe in the darkness. The sound was different, deeper, heavier. When had she started sleeping so soundly? When had she stopped talking in her sleep? When had my wife become a stranger? The next morning, I found her in the bathroom at 6 a.m., hunched over the toilet. She hadn't heard me come upstairs. The sound of her retching echoed off the cold tile walls. Jessica? She straightened up abruptly, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand. Her face was pale, beads of sweat on her forehead. Michael, you scared me. Are you sick? Something I ate last night. That Chinese food must have been bad, but we had eaten the same meal. I felt fine. I remembered perfectly splitting the yakisoba and the spring rolls, laughing at something silly on television. It felt like a scene from another life now. She walked past me, already dressed for work. A new blouse I didn't recognize, looser than her usual style. I have to leave early today. Important client meeting. I watched her grab her purse and keys. In 5 years of marriage, Jessica had never mentioned a single client by name. Glenfield Electric wasn't that kind of company. It was a small electrical supply distributor with a dozen employees at most. After she left, I stood in our kitchen, drinking coffee from the mug she gave me on our 3rd anniversary. It said in faded letters, "World's best husband." The irony was not lost on me. Something was wrong. Every instinct I had was screaming it. The coffee smelled too bitter. The morning sun streaming through the window felt accusatory. But I needed proof before I acted. I had no idea just how wrong things really were. I met Jessica at my cousin Mike's wedding 6 years ago. She was a friend of the bride, laughing at something my aunt had said. When she smiled, her whole face lit up like a lamp in a dark night. I knew I had to get to know her better. Our courtship was simple and honest. Dinners at modest restaurants, weekend trips to Lake Geneva, quiet nights watching movies on her couch. She was 26 then, working part-time while finishing her business degree. I was 29, already established at Halyard Design, ready to build something with someone. We married in a small ceremony at St. Cecilia's Church. Her parents came in from out of state. My family filled 3 pews. Jessica wore my grandmother's pearl necklace and cried during our vows. Her voice trembled when she said, "I do," and I remember thinking I had never seen anything as beautiful as those tears rolling down her cheeks. The first 3 years were good. We bought the apartment on Acacia Street with help from my dad, who worked in construction his whole life and taught me the value of owning something solid. Jessica planted roses in the balcony planter box, I fixed the showerhead and painted the walls a shade of blue she picked out over 3 different trips to the hardware store. We talked about kids. Not right away, but someday. Jessica wanted to establish her career first. I respected that. We had time. Or so I thought. But this year things changed in ways I couldn't quite name. Small things at first. She stopped asking about my day. Stopped leaving notes in my lunchbox. Started working late twice a week, then 3 times. When I suggested dinner at Romano's, our favorite Italian place, she said she wasn't in the mood for heavy food. When I bought tickets to see the Bears play, she remembered a work commitment. When my sister Victoria invited us for Sunday lunch, Jessica suddenly had plans with her college friend Sophia. The intimacy disappeared gradually, then all at once. First she was too tired, then too stressed, then too busy planning some undefined future goal. What goal? I had asked 2 weeks ago. Just things, Michael. You wouldn't understand. That one hurt. It hurt like a slow knife between the ribs. In 5 years, she had never dismissed me like that, as if I were a stranger incapable of comprehending her complex life. I started paying attention to details. Her phone always face down now. Her schedule suddenly unpredictable. Her clothes newer and more expensive than her salary should allow. Once I saw a forgotten price tag on a blouse. The amount made me swallow hard. Last Wednesday, she came home smelling of cologne. Not mine. The scent was woody, expensive, distinct. When I asked about it, she said the elevator at work was broken and she had to share a ride with a colleague named David. David from accounting. No David from the warehouse. But Glenfield Electric didn't have a warehouse. I knew because I'd dropped off her forgotten lunch there once. The building was strictly offices, a ground floor and 2 more floors of administrative rooms. The lie sat between us at dinner like a third person. That night she slept in the guest room again. Said she didn't want to disturb me with her tossing and turning. I was beginning to realize my wife was a stranger. The question was, who had she become? The truth hit me on a Thursday afternoon in early October. I was organizing our file cabinet, looking for the warranty papers for the refrigerator when I found the receipt. It was tucked behind our insurance documents, folded small as if someone had tried to hide it. Planned Parenthood, Southside Clinic, dated 6 weeks ago. My hands went cold. The paper felt like it was burning my fingertips. The receipt was for a pregnancy test and consultation. Positive result documented in small clinical print. Weeks ago was exactly when Jessica had stopped wanting me to touch her. When the convenient headaches began, when our bedroom became forbidden territory, I sat on our bed staring at that piece of paper. Everything suddenly made sense. The morning sickness she tried to hide, the sudden aversion to wine at dinner, she who loved her glass of red on Saturdays, the way she'd been shielding her stomach when she hugged me goodbye. My wife was pregnant, but we hadn't been intimate in 3 months. The math was simple and brutal. Jessica was carrying another man's child. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, letting the reality settle into my bones like wet cement hardening. The woman I loved, the woman I built a life with, had betrayed me in the deepest way possible. And she was planning to pass off another man's baby as my own. The ceiling fan spun in slow circles above me. I counted each rotation, trying to process the unthinkable. 23 rotations until I could breathe normally again. I thought about confronting her immediately, demanding answers, making her admit what she'd done. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was strategy. Or maybe I just needed time to figure out how to breathe again. Instead, I put the receipt back exactly where I found it. I folded it with the same meticulous care Jessica had used, each crease perfectly aligned. If she wanted to play this game, I would play too. But I would play to win. That night, Jessica came home with Chinese takeout and acted like nothing had changed. She even suggested we watch a movie together, something we hadn't done in months. "How was your day?" she asked, settling next to me on the couch. The warmth of her body so close made me feel simultaneously comforted and betrayed. "Good," I replied. "And yours?" "Busy. Dr. Evans wants to run some tests next week. Just routine." I nodded and smiled, but inside I was already planning. The movie played on the screen, some silly romantic comedy, but I didn't process a thing. My mind was mapping out moves like a chess game, thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. If Jessica thought she could manipulate me, she was wrong. If she thought I would raise another man's child without knowing the truth, she was mistaken about that too. I had always been patient. It was one of my strengths. Jessica used to say it was what she loved most about me, how I thought things through before acting. She was about to learn exactly how patient I could be, and how lethal that patience could become when turned into a weapon. The game had begun, and Jessica had no idea I was already 3 moves ahead. 2 weeks after finding the receipt, I made my first move. Jessica, I've been thinking about what you said about starting a family. She looked up from her plate of eggs, her fork halfway to her mouth. We were having breakfast on a Saturday morning, something we hadn't done in months. The sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, making golden patterns on the plaid tablecloth my mother gave us for a wedding gift. What about it? Maybe we should stop waiting. Maybe we should try now. The color drained from her face. She set her fork down on her plate carefully, as if it might break. The sound of metal against porcelain echoed too loudly in the sudden silence. Now, Michael, I thought we agreed to wait until I got that promotion. What promotion? You never mentioned a promotion. I let the question hang in the air between us, watching every micro-expression on her face. She fiddled with her napkin, folding and unfolding the corners. Well, it's not official yet, but Mr. Harrison hinted there might be a management opening soon. Another lie. I had called Glenfield Electric on Friday pretending to be a supplier. There was no Mr. Harrison. The company had 12 employees total, all of whom I could name. I had written down each name on a list, double-checked. Harrison wasn't on it. How long do you think that will take? I don't know. Maybe 6 months, maybe more. Months. Exactly when her pregnancy would become impossible to hide. When the bump would start to really grow. When the loose clothes wouldn't be enough anymore. I think we should try now, I pushed, leaning forward. We're not getting any younger. My dad always said the right time is when you decide it is. And I've decided. Jessica stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the kitchen floor. The sound was like nails on a chalkboard setting my teeth on edge. I need to take a shower. Sophia and I are going shopping today. What time will you be back? I don't know. Late. The smell of her strawberry shampoo lingered in the air after she left, the scent that used to make me smile. Now it just reminded me of all the lies wrapped in a sweet perfume. After she left, I sat in my car in the garage for 20 minutes, thinking. The steering wheel was warm under my hands, the leather heated by the Chicago sun. Then I drove to the public library on Michigan Avenue and used their computer. I couldn't risk leaving a trail in my browsing history at home. I researched private investigators, divorce attorneys, DNA testing procedures. I wrote everything down on a legal pad, my handwriting careful and neat. Each word was a weapon I was forging, each piece of information ammunition for the battle to come. By the time Jessica got home that night, I had a plan. How was shopping? I asked, not looking up from the newspaper I was pretending to read. Good. Sophia helped me pick out some new clothes for work. She showed me a bag from Target. 3 loose-fitting blouses and a pair of pants with an elastic waistband. Maternity clothes disguised as normal clothes. I knew the techniques. My sister Victoria had used the same ones when she was pregnant with her twins. They're nice, I said. The colors suit you. That night she slept in our bed for the first time in weeks. She even let me hold her, though she tensed when I touched her stomach. I felt a slight roundness there, almost imperceptible. More real than any receipt could ever be. Michael, yeah? Do you ever think about the future? About what you want our life to be like? All the time. My heart was pounding in my chest, each beat a countdown to something inevitable. What do you see? I was quiet for a long moment, choosing my words as if I were choosing stones to build a wall. I see honesty, I said finally. I see 2 people who trust each other completely. No secrets, no lies. She was silent after that. I could feel her breathing change, become more shallow. In the darkness of the room, it felt like we were miles apart even though our bodies were touching. The following Monday, I took a half-day off work and drove downtown. I met with a lawyer named Patricia Miller, who specialized in family law. She was in her 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes that had probably seen every kind of betrayal. Her office smelled of old coffee and paper, the smell of realities being unmade and remade. I need to know my options, I told her. She listened as I laid out the situation. The pregnancy, the timeline, the lies. Every word that came out of my mouth made it more real, more painfully concrete. Do you want to save your marriage? She asked, her hands clasped on her polished mahogany desk. I want to know the truth first. Without truth, there's no marriage to save. She nodded. Get the DNA test, but be smart about it. Don't let her know you suspect anything until you have proof. And about the timing? If she's 6 weeks along, a DNA test can be done as early as 9 weeks through a simple, non-invasive blood draw. She'd never know unless she specifically looked for it in the medical records. But it will cost you, and you need to be prepared for what you might find out. I'm already prepared, I lied. No one is ever really prepared to have their life destroyed. I left her office with business cards and pamphlets, everything I needed to protect myself legally. But first, I needed to let Jessica show her hand. I needed her to feel safe, confident, victorious. Only then would I turn the tables. That night, she was unusually affectionate. She made my favorite dinner, steak with mashed potatoes and green beans. She asked about my day and actually listened to the answer, her eyes on mine, nodding at the right moments. It was a masterful performance. I love you, Michael, she said as we cleaned the kitchen. The dish soap made iridescent bubbles in the fluorescent light. I love you too. It was the truth which made everything harder. I still loved the woman I married, but that woman had perhaps been a lie from the start. Or maybe she had existed once and simply vanished, replaced by this stranger who shared her face. 3 days later, Jessica made an announcement. I'm going to visit my sister Helen in St. Louis this weekend. She's having some trouble in her marriage. I need to be there for her. Jessica didn't have a sister named Helen. She had one sister, Patricia, who lived in Indianapolis and had been happily married for 8 years. I had just talked to Patricia last month for Jessica's mother's birthday. She'd mentioned plans to go to Disney, not having marital problems. How long will you be gone? Just Saturday and Sunday. I'll drive out Saturday morning and come back Sunday night. I nodded as if I believed her. Send Helen my best. Tell her I'm rooting for her. That Saturday, I followed her. I felt like a character in one of those TV shows Jessica liked to watch, keeping 3 car lengths behind on the Dan Ryan Expressway, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap like some kind of amateur detective. My heart was beating so loud I could hear it over the sound of the engine. Jessica didn't drive to St. Louis. She drove 30 minutes to a subdivision in Naperville and parked in front of a modest house on Lily Street. A man came out to meet her, tall, athletic build, dark hair with a few flecks of gray at the temples. He kissed her on the doorstep like he'd been waiting for her, like she belonged there. The kiss was long, intimate, the kind of kiss she hadn't given me in months. I parked across the street and took pictures with my phone. The license plate of his red pickup truck, the house number. The way Jessica melted into his arms as if she belonged there, as if that was her real home. Every picture was a stab wound, but I kept clicking. Evidence, I needed evidence. They went inside together. I waited for 2 hours, sitting in the suffocating heat of the car. The sun beat down on the windshield, turning the interior into a sauna. Sweat trickled down my back, but I couldn't run the AC and risk drawing attention, so I sat there baking, watching, waiting. Finally, I drove home. Every mile back felt longer than the last. That night, I looked up the address. The house belonged to someone named Tyler Rodriguez, 36, employed as a contractor at Miller Construction. No wife listed on public records, no children. Single, free, available to wreck marriages. Jessica came home Sunday night with shopping bags from a St. Louis outlet mall and stories about Helen's marital woes. She's thinking about couples therapy, Jessica said, pulling a new scarf from a bag. I told her it could help. That communication is key. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. Did you tell her about us? About our plans to start a family? Jessica hesitated for just a second. No, the timing didn't feel right. She's so fragile right now. On Monday morning, I called in sick and drove back to Naperville. I waited across from Lily Street until Tyler Rodriguez left at 7:30 a.m. Then I followed him. He stopped at a coffee shop on Industrial Drive. I went in after him and ordered a coffee. 2 people behind him in line. The smell of fresh coffee and toasted bagels should have been comforting, but my stomach was in knots. He was on the phone, talking low. I caught snippets of the conversation. Told her husband she wants to start trying. Another few weeks until she can tell him. Baby will look like his if we time it right. My coffee tasted like ash. I left it on the counter and walked out. The air outside felt cleaner, but my lungs still couldn't get enough of it. The picture was becoming clearer. Jessica and Tyler had a timeline. She would string me along for another few weeks, then announce the pregnancy as a happy surprise. By then, she'd be far enough along that the dates would seem plausible. I'd be expected to celebrate, to be excited about becoming a father, to start planning our future together. Meanwhile, I'd be raising Tyler Rodriguez's child and never know the truth, unless I stopped it first. And I was going to stop it. That afternoon, I made appointments. First with a private investigator named Robert Evans, who specialized in infidelity cases. Then with a DNA testing lab that offered discreet services. How fast can you get results? I asked the lab tech. Once we have the samples, 48 hours for a standard paternity test, and you can do it without the mother knowing. As long as you're the legal husband and can provide samples from yourself and the child, yes. But the child wasn't born yet, and I needed proof before Jessica made her announcement. I had one option. It was risky, but it was the only way to get ahead of her timeline. I was going to make Jessica think I suspected nothing while I gathered enough evidence to completely destroy her story. And when the time came, when she finally revealed her big lie, I would be ready with a revelation of my own. The opportunity came the following Thursday. Jessica had another late meeting scheduled at work. I knew now that meant another visit to Tyler Rodriguez. This time I was ready. I had spent the week preparing. Robert Evans, the PI, provided me with a GPS tracker smaller than a quarter. I attached it to Jessica's car while she was in the shower that morning, my hands shaking slightly as I worked. I also installed software on our shared laptop that would track her internet activity. And I opened a separate bank account in my name only. I needed to protect my assets, because when this bomb went off, I didn't want to lose everything I'd built. When Jessica left for her meeting, I gave her a 10-minute head start, then started following the GPS signal on my phone. She went straight to the house on Lily Street. I parked 4 blocks away and walked back, staying in the shadows of the trees that lined the street. Through the front window, I could see them together on the couch, Jessica's head on his shoulder, his hand resting on her stomach. On my child. No, not my child. His child. They looked like a couple planning their future. My future, the one being stolen from me. I took pictures from multiple angles, clear shots of their faces, timestamps proving when Jessica was supposed to be at work. The golden light of dusk illuminated them perfectly, as if the universe were conspiring to give me the proof I needed. Then I walked back to my car and called Robert Evans. I need you to run a full background investigation on Tyler Rodriguez, I said. Employment history, past relationships, financial records, everything. How deep do you want me to go? Deep enough to know who I'm dealing with. Deep enough to destroy him if necessary. The next morning, Jessica was unusually quiet at breakfast. She picked at her toast and kept checking her phone. The screen would light up her face each time, showing messages she quickly hid. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, just tired. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Maybe you should take a day off. Rest up, she looked up sharply. Why would you say that? You've just been working so hard lately. All those late meetings. They're important for my career, Michael, I know. I'm proud of you. The lie came easily now. I was learning to match her deceit with my own. That afternoon, Robert Evans called with preliminary results. Your wife's boyfriend has an interesting history, he said. 3 prior relationships that ended badly. 2 domestic disturbance calls to his address in the last 5 years. And he's currently unemployed. Unemployed? But I saw him leave for work. He was fired from Miller Construction 6 weeks ago. Outstanding child support payments to an ex-girlfriend in Milwaukee. He's 3 months behind on his mortgage, about weeks ago. Exactly when Jessica got pregnant. When his perfect world started to crumble and he decided I would be the solution. The reliable chump, the stupid husband who would raise another man's child and pay the bills, while he and Jessica laughed behind my back. Send me everything you have, I said. That night, Jessica announced she was going to make dinner reservations for Saturday night. Somewhere special, she said. I have something I want to tell you. Good news, I hope. She smiled that rehearsed smile. Very good news, Saturday. That gave me 2 days to make my final preparations. 2 days to ensure that when Jessica dropped her bomb, I would be ready with a much bigger one. I spent Friday afternoon at the DNA testing lab, learning exactly what I would need. A hair sample from Jessica would be enough to confirm paternity once the baby was born. But I needed something more immediate. The lab tech, a woman named Dr. Carter, explained my options. Her glasses reflected the fluorescent lights as she shuffled papers. If your wife is willing to take a non-invasive prenatal paternity test, we can have results in 72 hours. It requires a simple blood draw from her and a cheek swab from the potential father. And if she's not willing, then you wait until the baby is born. But given what you've told me about the circumstances, I would recommend seeking legal counsel on how to handle the reveal. I already had legal counsel. Patricia Miller had been very clear about what I needed to do to protect myself. Document everything, gather irrefutable proof, and time the revelation perfectly for maximum legal impact. I made one last call to Robert Evans on Saturday morning. I need a full dossier on Tyler Rodriguez by tonight, I said. Photos, employment records, criminal background, everything. Can you do it? Consider it done. By the way, I found something interesting. What? He has another girlfriend. A waitress in Oak Park. Been together for 8 months, right around the same time he started with your wife. Looks like Don Juan likes to keep his options open. The son of a bitch. He wasn't even faithful to Jessica while he was destroying my marriage. The irony would have been comical if it weren't so tragic. Jessica had no idea her perfect plan was about to fall apart, and when it did, I would make sure she lost everything. Saturday night, Jessica chose Romano's for dinner, the same Italian restaurant where we had our first date 6 years ago. The choice wasn't a coincidence. She was building a narrative, creating a moment that would sound romantic and meaningful when she told the story later. Our story of how we announced we were going to be parents. She wore a new blue dress and had her hair done. Her perfume was different, more expensive, something Tyler had probably given her. She looked beautiful and nervous, like a woman about to change her life. Or so she thought. We ordered our usual dishes. Chicken parmigiana for her, lasagna for me, but she barely touched her food. Her fingers drummed on the table, her eyes darting away from mine, then back again. The candle between us cast dancing shadows on her face, making her look like a stranger. Michael, I have something wonderful to tell you. What is it? I made my voice sound curious, even hopeful. The consummate actor now. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her palm was damp with sweat, and I could feel her rapid pulse through the thin skin of her wrist. We're going to have a baby. I looked surprised, even shocked. Seriously, I took the test yesterday. We're pregnant, Michael. After all this time trying, it finally happened. The lie was so smooth, so rehearsed. She had probably practiced it for weeks, testing every word, every inflection. After all this time trying. As if we had been trying. As if she hadn't spent 3 months avoiding me. Jessica, that's amazing. When did it happen? When are you due? The doctor thinks I'm about 6 weeks along, so the baby should be due in late spring. Maybe April or May, 6 weeks. Right on schedule. Calculated perfectly so that I couldn't do the math and realize the impossibility. I stood up and kissed her on the forehead. This is the best news ever. We should celebrate. I already ordered champagne, she said, a smile lighting up her face. Well, sparkling cider for me, of course. She placed a hand on her stomach in a protective maternal gesture. This performance was flawless. The waiter brought the drinks. Jessica raised her glass, beaming. To our future, she said. To our future, I agreed. Then I reached into my jacket pocket and placed a manila envelope on the table between us. Her smile faltered. What's this? Open it. Her hands trembled as she lifted the flap. Inside were photographs. Jessica and Tyler Rodriguez kissing on his doorstep. Jessica and Tyler through the window, cuddling on the couch. Jessica's car parked in front of his address on 3 different occasions with clear timestamps. Also included was Tyler's employment record showing he'd been fired, his criminal background check, his outstanding child support obligations, and at the bottom a DNA test authorization form with my signature already in place. Jessica's face went white as paper. The envelope slipped from her fingers. The photographs scattered across the table like playing cards, each one revealing a new layer of betrayal. Michael, I can explain. Her voice was a choked whisper. Can you explain how you got pregnant during the 3 months we weren't intimate? Can you explain why you've been lying about working late? Can you explain Tyler Rodriguez? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Tears started to stream down her face, smudging her carefully applied makeup. But I felt no pity, only a coldness that had settled in my chest weeks ago. I already know everything, Jessica. Everything. I've known about the pregnancy since I found the Planned Parenthood receipt a month ago. I know about Tyler. I know he's unemployed. I know he owes child support to another woman. I know you plan to pass his child off as mine. People at the surrounding tables started to look. Voices lowered. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. But I didn't care. Let them look. Let them see who she really was. I even know, I continued, leaning forward, that Tyler has another girlfriend, a waitress in Oak Park, 8 months together. So you're not even special to the traitor. No, the word came out as a moan. No, that's not true. It is true. It's all in here. I pointed to the scattered photos. Pictures of him with the other woman, too. You're just one of several, Jessica. And he was using you just as much as you were using me. That's not true. I love him. He loves me. He loves your steady paycheck. He loves having someone to help him with his bills. He loves having someone stupid enough to believe his lies, just like you thought I was stupid enough to believe yours. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I never wanted to hurt you, Michael. I fell in love. He made me feel alive again. So you destroyed our marriage because you were bored, because you needed excitement? My voice was rising now, years of hurt and betrayal spilling out. You could have told me. You could have been honest. We could have divorced like adults. But instead you chose this. You chose to deceive me. You chose to try and make me raise another man's child. I'm sorry. God, Michael, I am so sorry. The only question now, I said calmly, is whether you want to handle this quietly or make things complicated. Because I have a lawyer. I have proof. I have everything I need to make sure you get nothing in this divorce. Absolutely nothing. Jessica tried to run. She stood so abruptly that her chair fell backward with a crash that echoed through the restaurant. Everyone was staring now, all pretense of discretion gone. She stumbled between tables, her blue dress fluttering, sobs tearing from her throat. I caught up to her in the parking lot. She was sitting on the curb beside her car, crying into her hands. The parking lot lights cast a harsh fluorescent glow, stripping all beauty from the scene. There was no romance here, no background music, no happy ending. I never wanted this to happen, she said without looking up. Her voice was thick, broken. Which part? The affair or getting caught? She raised her face, her eyes red and swollen. I thought I could make it work. I thought you would never find out. I thought we could be a family built on lies, on betrayal. Did you really think I was that stupid? No, Michael. I thought I was smarter, and that was my downfall. The silence hung between us, heavy and final. In the distance, I could hear the traffic on Michigan Avenue, life going on as normal while mine fell apart. Did you ever love me? I asked finally, the question that had tormented me for weeks. Yes, in the beginning, yes. You were good, Michael. Kind, stable, everything I thought I wanted. But it wasn't enough. No, eventually it wasn't. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, smearing her mascara, and I have no excuse for it. It wasn't your fault. It was mine. My weakness, my selfishness. At least you're being honest now. She gave a bitter laugh. A little late for that, don't you think? Yeah, years late. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my hand. Michael, wait. The baby. Not my problem. It's yours. And Tyler's. Good luck with that. I pulled my hand free and walked to my car. I didn't look back. Not when I heard her call my name. Not when I heard her renewed sobs. Not when I started the engine and drove out of the parking lot. It was over. Finally over. The divorce papers were filed the following Monday. Patricia Miller had prepared everything in advance. Jessica moved out that same week, taking only her personal belongings. I got the apartment, the furniture, everything. She didn't fight. She couldn't fight, not with all the evidence I had. Tyler Rodriguez tried to contact me once. A late-night call, his voice slurred and belligerent. claiming Jessica had told him we were already separated when they met, claiming he didn't know she was married. "You're lying," I said calmly. "I have recordings of you talking about her husband. I have dated pictures. I have everything. So stop calling me or I send it all to the police and to the mother of your other child in Milwaukee." He hung up. He never called again. Weeks turned into months. Jessica's pregnancy progressed, but it was no longer my concern. She tried to block me when I requested the DNA test after the birth, but I had legal rights, as the husband still technically married at the time of conception. Patricia Miller was relentless on that point. The baby was born in May, a boy. Jessica named him Lucas. She tried to stop me from being at the hospital, but the law was on my side. I didn't go into the delivery room. I didn't hold the baby. I just provided my DNA sample and waited for the results. It took 48 hours. 48 hours of final uncertainty, though I already knew the truth in my heart. But I needed the official confirmation, black and white, undeniable. The results confirmed what I already knew. Tyler Rodriguez's son, 0% probability of paternity for me. When I showed the results to Jessica, she was sitting in a hospital bed holding Lucas. The baby had Tyler's eyes, his chin. It was obvious now, impossible to deny. "Are you still going to sue him?" she asked quietly. "For fraud? For trying to make me raise a child that wasn't mine?" "No," I replied. "You're going to suffer enough. Living with the choices you've made will be punishment enough." And I was right. Jessica and Tyler lasted 8 months after the divorce was finalized. She found out about the other girlfriend 3 months after Lucas was born. Found out he had lied about everything. About his job prospects, about his past, about his feelings for her. He had been playing both women, taking what he could from each. When she confronted him, he just left. Left her with a newborn baby and no child support. She tried to sue him, but he had vanished. Moved to another state, maybe, or just another city. Men like Tyler were good at disappearing when responsibilities showed up. Jessica called me crying one night, about a year after the divorce. It was almost 2 in the morning. I was nearly asleep when the phone rang, the sound jarring in the silence of my new apartment. "Michael, it's me." I recognized the voice immediately, though it was more tired, more defeated than I remembered. "What do you want, Jessica?" I just wanted to say I'm sorry. That I made the biggest mistake of my life. That you deserved better." "Yes, I did." There was a long silence. "Why are you calling me now?" "Because Lucas has a fever, and I don't have money for the doctor. Because I'm working 2 jobs, and I can barely make rent. Because Tyler is gone and I have no one and I ruined everything and I just needed to hear your voice." "I see," I said. And I did. I understood that she had lost everything. Her security, her future, her dignity. The choices she had made had consequences, and now she was living with them. "Can you ever forgive me?" I thought about it. Forgiveness was complicated. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean we would go back to what we were. It just meant letting go of the anger, letting go of the poison that had been eating away at me. "Maybe," I finally replied. "Someday. But not today. Today I'm still healing. I understand." She was crying now. Low sobs she was trying to stifle. "Thank you for answering. Thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself, Jessica. Take care of your son." I hung up before she could reply. And this time, when I placed the phone on the nightstand, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. It wasn't happiness exactly, but it was peace. A small measure of peace. 6 months later, I sold the apartment on Acacia Street. The memories there were too heavy, every room haunted by ghosts of who we thought we would be. I bought a smaller place in Lincoln Park, closer to work. A fresh start. I kept working at Hilliard Design. I was promoted to floor manager 6 months after the divorce. My boss said he admired my resilience, my ability to focus on work even during difficult times. I didn't tell him work was the only thing that kept me sane, the only thing that made sense when everything else had fallen apart. I started taking night classes at DePaul University. Business administration, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Now I had time. I had all the evenings I used to spend with Jessica, all the weekends we had planned to spend as a family. So I filled that time with growth, with progress, with building something new from the wreckage of my marriage. Through Mike, my cousin, I heard that Jessica had found a job as a waitress in a small town in Illinois near where her parents lived. She had moved back home, baby in tow, living in a small apartment behind her parents' house. She worked double shifts, rarely saw Lucas awake, struggled to make ends meet. Tyler Rodriguez had disappeared completely when the child support payments for his first child caught up with him. There were warrants, lawsuits, a lifetime of consequences finally catching up. The roses she planted in our planter box withered and died the summer after she left. I stopped watering them at some point. Not deliberately, I just forgot. And when I finally noticed they were brown and dead, I felt no remorse. They were just plants. And plants die when they're not taken care of. So do marriages. So does love. So do lies eventually collapse under their own weight. Sometimes, sitting in my new apartment, drinking my morning coffee as the sun rose over Chicago, I'd think about what could have been if Jessica had been honest. If she had simply said she was unhappy, that she wanted something different, that she'd met someone else. It would have hurt, but it would have been clean, honest. But she chose deceit. She chose manipulation. And in doing so, she destroyed not just our marriage, but any possibility of retaining respect, friendship, or even decent memories of what we shared. I met someone new a year and a half after the divorce. Amanda, a high school teacher with a genuine smile and eyes that didn't hide anything. We took it slow, very slow. She knew about Jessica, about the betrayal, about the scars I still carried. And she was patient. "Do you trust me?" she asked one night as we had dinner at her apartment. "I'm learning to," I answered honestly. "Trust doesn't come easy anymore. I understand, and I'll earn it. Every day I'll earn it," and she did. With small, consistent actions, with brutal honesty even when it was uncomfortable, with transparency in everything. Slowly, the walls I had built started to come down. I still thought of Jessica sometimes. I wondered how she was, how Lucas was growing, if she had found any happiness. But the thoughts came less and less frequently, and when they did, they were devoid of emotion. She was just someone I knew once, someone who made bad choices and paid the price. The truth, I realized, wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making her suffer or proving I was right. The truth was simply about protecting myself, about refusing to be complicit in my own destruction. And in that, at least, I had succeeded. Sometimes the truth is the only justice we get, but it's enough. It has to be enough. Because in the end, we live with the choices we make. And those choices define us more than anything else. Jessica chose betrayal and lost everything. I chose the truth and got my life back. And that, after all, is the difference between us.